What's up guys, welcome back to Kit Guru and welcome back to the final part of our AMD frame custom build. This has been a series that's gone on for several videos, and through those videos we've been showing you how we're building this AAA AMD custom system. So in the earlier videos we modified the motherboard. You can see these white and grey custom cables, and basically we've covered the complete customization and modifications through the previous video. So make sure you go back and watch those videos if you like how this system is looking. And also don't forget, when we have completed this system, we will be giving it away to one of you lucky viewers. So make sure you watch this video to the end for the full details of how you could possibly win this system. So in the last video, I started actually building the system. You can see it's partially built here. We got all the main components in position, some of the water cooling parts as well. The last video ended with me saying that I want to do a few little changes to the system. So these brackets that hold the pump res combos, these were black. I've now painted those white. The cables on these fans as well, these were just in some black sleeving, and it didn't look right with the rest of the system, so I've sleeved them in the white and grey sleeving like the main cables of the system. You can also see that all the main cables, so the 24-pin PCIe cables and the EPS cables, they're all in position now, and they're managed around the back of the system as well. And also I've swapped the cable combs. So originally I've got some black cable combs on them. They looked okay, but they didn't really match the theme of the system, so I was going to swap them for some white ones, but I actually got these that are kind of semi-transparent, so you can see the colours of the individual sleeving through those as well. So that's some of the jobs I've been working on since the last video. I've also been working on this Ryzen Radeon logo panel. Originally this was just in the aluminium finish that it came, because this is laser cut from a piece of 4mm, I think it is, aluminium, maybe 5mm aluminium. It's laser cut from aluminium plate, and then what I've done behind it, so you can see I painted it white to match with the rest of the system, but then you can see the lettering is in kind of a shiny chrome finish. So basically what I did is just put some white acrylic at the back and covered that white acrylic with the same chrome effect vinyl wrap that I used on the end of the radiator caps as well. So that's ready to be mounted as well. I was going to mount it here originally at the front, but I'm thinking now maybe I'll switch it to behind, so just at the back here. I think it looks better there. So yeah, if you get it central, I think it looks better there. So I think I'm going to mount it there permanently on the system, or maybe make it so that it can be removed and switch around if the person who wins this system wants to switch it around, or remove it completely if they want. So that's another thing I've been working on. Something else I've got as well is the enclosure for the LCD display. So the LCD display is going to go here. Two parts of this were laser cut from aluminium plate. Again, this is from 3mm aluminium plate. So this is a back cover, and then this is the surround that will go on the front of the LCD display, something like that. And then this part was the bit I was waiting for in the last video. So this has been 3D printed. So this is just like the body of the enclosure. The LCD panel will go inside that with the frame round the front. And then this bit is just a cover for the back. So that's ready as well now. So in this video, we're basically going to be finishing off building the system. So installing this LCD panel in position permanently, finishing off assembling everything really, so building the custom loop, any other cables that need to be connected up and things like that. And hopefully by the end of this video we will have the complete system built up and be ready to go to its new owner. I also, at the end of the video, I want to have a look as well at how we can optimize the system using the AMD software. So I'll take a look at overclocking the graphics card. We can't overclock the CPU on this because it is a AMD Ryzen 7 5800X3D, so it's got the locked multiplier, but we'll look at how we can optimize the rest of the system using the AMD software. But first job is to get on with finishing off building the system, installing the logo panel, putting the LCD in place, finishing the custom loop or starting the custom loop, and just, yeah, basically getting it ready for its new owner. So That's what we're going to get on with right now. So that's the LCD screen installed. I found it really easy actually to install that. What I did is bonded the three pieces of the enclosure together using some of this really thin double coated tissue tape. It's the kind of tape they use to bond mobile screens, laptop screens, tablet screens in. So the three parts of the enclosure were stuck together with that. The actual LCD screen was also stuck to the outer frame using that tape. I don't have any worries about that because it's a really strong bond. And then I just drilled and tapped the back lid of the enclosure, and then it's mounted with 4 screws in the place on the frame where the pump res combo would go, or the mount for pump res combo. So there's a small cutout down the side of the enclosure body so that I can plug in HDMI cables and power cables. So that's basically done. So I just need to set that up when the system's up and running. I've also got to fit this logo panel. I'm going to leave that till the last job. Next thing to do now is start to build up the custom loop and hopefully get this thing powered on. So there it is, the build is complete, the system's up and running without trying to sound too big-headed. I think it looks absolutely superb. The white and silver theme is perfect as far as I'm concerned. This is actually one of my favourite builds that I've done in a long time. If you've been following this series, you'll know the spec of the system, but I'm just going to run through it again for those of you that might just be watching for the first time. So, motherboard is a X570 Aorus X-treme from Gigabyte. That's been customised with white shrouds and polished the M.2 heat sinks. The CPU in this system is an AMD Ryzen 7 5800 X3D. That's the one with a locked multiplier, so we can't overclock that, but we can do some overclocking to the graphics card. And the graphics card is a AMD Radeon RX 6950 XT, the gaming OC from Gigabyte. Memory is a G.SKILL Trident Z Royal Silver kit. It's a 64GB kit, 3600 MHz C16, so perfect for the AMD Ryzen platform. In terms of storage, so for the Windows boot drive, we've got a 1TB Aorus Gen 4 drive, and also additional storage with two Kingston Fury Renegade 2TB drives, all PCIe Gen 4 drives, so it's all fast storage. And then, as you can see, for cooling the system, we've got an EK custom loop. In fact, it's two custom loops. So at this side, we've got the X480M surface radiator, and that is cooling the graphics card. And then at the other side, another X480M, and that's cooling the CPU. So separate loops for CPU and GPU. You can see we've got these Barrow temperature monitors here as well. These can be set up to a specific temperature and it would sound an alarm if it goes above that temperature. So we've got one of those for the GPU, one for the CPU. A couple of EK flow meters there as well, just so that you've got a view of the actual coolant moving around the system. So if a pump was to stop working, these would stop moving and you'd be able to see straight away if there's a problem. Down the side of the system here is the LCD display. So this has just been set up with the ADA64 sensor panel, and I've just made this setup myself so it's in keeping with the white and silver or white and grey theme. So on here we've got CPU frequency, CPU utilization, CPU temperature, GPU temperature, and then GPU utilization and GPU frequency. Obviously whoever wins this system can fiddle around with that, maybe put their own skin on there or change that any way they like, but for now I've just got it it's quite simple, but I think it fits in nicely with the rest of the system. Other mods include the cable, so these white and silver cables are made up myself using MD PCX sleeving. The sleeving came from a company called Pexon in the UK. I've also got up at the top this Ryzen Radeon logo panel up there as well. That's also painted white to match in with the rest of the system. The lettering's backed with this chrome. That looks good as well, works perfectly with the system. It's just mounted up there on two brackets, so you could take that off if you don't want it up there if you are the winner of the system. It's not just about how it looks, we also want this system to be performing as it should be. So as you can see, I'm just running the 3D Mark TimeSpy X-treme stress test as well as the Cinebench R23 stress test, so they're both running continuously in a loop. We've been going now for about 20 minutes, and you can see CPU temperature is around 75-76 degrees C, and the GPU temperature is currently at 48-49 degrees C. So system's under high load there, and you can see the cooling system is doing its job. Currently I've got the fans set on a custom curve using a bit of software called Fan Control. So normally I'd use an Aorus monitor, but you have to pay for that after a 30-day trial, whereas with Fan Control it's completely free. Fan Control and Aorus monitor is you can set up your radiator fans according to GPU temperature, which is what we needed to do as we've removed the stock GPU cooler and we're using this cooling loop for cooling the GPU. So with Fan Control I was able to set the GPU fans on this radiator according to the temperature of the GPU, and currently they're running about 800 RPM, so the system's extremely quiet. Both the GPU and the CPU fans are running about 800 RPM, and you can see temperatures are perfectly within the kind of limits you'd expect of a custom loop. If the temperature increases, so if the CPU temperature goes above 80 degrees, then the fans will start to ramp up, and obviously the higher the CPU temperature goes, the fans will ramp up. But as you can see and probably hear, it's a pretty quiet system while it's under full load. I also want to take a quick look at the performance as well. So I'm going to run a couple of game benchmarks to see how the system performs with it all stock, because at the moment the CPU and GPU, nothing's overclocked, it's all running at its stock frequency, stock voltages. Obviously with the CPU we can't overclock that because it is the X3D, 5800 X3D, which is a locked multiplier, and this board doesn't allow you to do base clock overclocking with it. So we'll concentrate on the GPU. This is a gaming system anyway, and in its stock form the 5800 X3D is, some would say, fastest gaming CPU available. So we'll just concentrate on overclocking the GPU. So I'm going to run some benchmarks with the GPU at stock and then see how we can use the AMD Adrenalin software to optimize the performance and see what kind of boost that gives us in these gaming benchmarks. So just let the system cool down after those stress tests, and I'm going to have a look at the performance now. So the first thing I'm going to do is run the 3D Mark TimeSpy X-treme benchmark. That's the 4K benchmark. Just so that you can see, I open up the AMD Adrenalin software, and in performance and tuning section, everything's set to auto. So the GPU is running in its stock configuration. And here you can mess around with the parameters of the GPU. So you can change the frequency, you can use manual overclocking, automatic overclocking, change the VRAM frequency, change basically all the parameters of the GPU, such as the voltage and all the frequencies. So for now, we're going to just leave it stock, run this 3D Mark TimeSpy X-treme benchmark, and see what result we get. So that's the first TimeSpy X-treme benchmark finished with the GPU at stock frequencies, and you can see we have an overall score of 9004 and a GPU score of 10,283, which sounds pretty much what you'd expect from a water-cooled 6950 XT in a system like this. So now I'm just going to jump back into the Adrenalin software, back onto performance and tuning, and then you can see up at the top here we've got some options. So I'm going to choose overclock GPU. So this is the automatic overclocking of the GPU. This is where the software will do it itself. So click proceed on that, and it just does its thing, and then it's overclocked the GPU to 2718 megahertz automatically. So what I'll do now is see if that gives us much of an improvement in the 3D Mark TimeSpy X-treme benchmark. So we'll go back into that and then go back to benchmarks and then select the TimeSpy X-treme benchmark again and then click run on that. So now we'll see if the Adrenalin software gives us any performance boost in 3D Mark benchmark. So let that run and then come back and see what improvement we've got. So that second benchmark run has finished with the GPU automatically overclocked by the Adrenalin software, and you can see on the left hand side of the screen is the original run with the GPU at stock, and then on the right hand side is the overclocked run, and you can see quite clearly there we've got an improvement, especially in the graphics score. It's gone up by a couple of 100 points, which is a good improvement in 3D Mark. And to show you how that equates to actual gaming performance, just going to go back into the Adrenalin software and then reset everything back to factory defaults. You can see all that's back to original now. I've been running a game called Godfall as well, so it's got a built-in benchmark, and with the GPU overclocked we had an average FPS in the benchmark of 83. So I'm just going to run that again with the GPU back to its stock settings and see what kind of increase in actual gaming FPS we get by using the GPU overclock. So let's let this run and see what kind of improvement we're getting from the overclock. So that's the Godfall benchmark finished. Remember, with the GPU automatically overclocked, the average FPS was 83.6, and now with the GPU back at stock frequency, it's dropped to 74.7. So that's about a 7 or 8 FPS increase with the GPU overclocked, which is about 10% improvement. So at 4K, that sounds like quite a healthy improvement. So the Adrenalin software seems to have done a decent job of automatically overclocking the graphics card, and throughout these 3D Mark runs and these Godfall benchmark runs, we've been seeing GPU temperature about 40 to 45 degrees, so I'm really happy with that. I'm not going to mess about manually overclocking because I could potentially bring some instability into the system, and because this system's going to someone else, I want to keep it as reliable and stable as possible, so I'll leave it on the automatic overclocking. Another way you can boost gaming performance with AMD systems is by using a feature that's built into games called AMD Fidelity FX Super Resolution, or FSR for short, and I can actually show you that working in real time. So we just go back into settings and go to video. You can see FSR is currently turned off. So we'll go back to the game and start running the benchmark. So you've got a little FPS counter in the benchmark here. So this is the average FPS. So you can see at the moment it's hovering around about 75 FPS. Pretty constant actually at 75 FPS at the moment. So that's nice to see, a nice steady frames per second as the game's running. It just dropped slightly to 74.9. So at the moment we're looking around about average FPS 74, 75 with FSR turned off. If I just press escape and then go into the settings, I can actually turn on FSR as we're playing, so we can switch it to quality. What that does is it lowers the resolution that the frames are rendered at, and then it upscales it to make it look as if it's back at the native 4K resolution. So now we'll go on save and then click on resume, and you can see that's boosted the frame rate up a little to 78 FPS from about 74, 75 that we were at before, and you can still see quality look pretty good actually. It still looks almost like it's running at the 4K resolution. So if we just stop it again and then pop into settings again and onto video, and then you can drop that to then balanced, which will lower the resolution further and increase the upscaling. And then we go back and resume. And you can see again now the average FPS is over 80. So that's basically how FSR works. And then if you want extreme performance, back into settings and you can change it from balanced to performance, and then back into the game. You can see the FPS has been boosted a little bit more as well. There is a slight drop in the detail, but if you are running maybe a less powered graphics card than this, obviously with the 6950 XT, you probably don't really need to run FSR at the moment. Maybe in the future as games get more demanding, FSR might be better for 6950 XT. But if you're running something at the moment like a 6750 XT and you want to run 4K or higher resolutions, then FSR might be a much more useful feature for someone using one of those graphics cards. And then obviously, as I went through on one of the previous videos in the Adrenalin software, you've got other features like the recording and streaming feature. So if you want to broadcast your gameplay and broadcast it on Twitch or something like that, you don't have to use software such as OBS. You can do that now directly through the AMD Adrenalin software. Also built into the Adrenalin software are things like AMD Link, so that allows you to kind of create your own cloud gaming server, so you can be running a game on your main system, and then if you have to go out and do something else, you can maybe hop onto your tablet or your laptop or something like that, pick up where you left off and stream the game from your main system to your mobile device. And you can also use the Adrenalin software as well now to monitor temperatures, frequencies and stuff like that. But not only the GPU, you can see down this side we have the GPU monitoring, but also as well you can see CPU monitoring as well on the Adrenalin software now. So here you can see CPU utilization. If you just hit the drop down, you can see more information about the CPU there, such as the temperature and the frequency as well. So it's quite a useful bit of software, the AMD Adrenalin software now. It can replace your other temperature monitoring software or system monitoring software. It can replace your streaming and broadcasting software as well. So it's worth checking out the features of the AMD Adrenalin software if you're using an AMD graphics card. So that's about it for me for the AMD Frame project. The system's all built up, performance is good, it's all running perfectly well. I'm happy with how it's turned out. Let me know what you think of the system in the comment section. If you want to win this system, you will have a chance to do that very soon. All the details of that will be over on our Facebook page in the coming days, so if you don't already follow us on Facebook, make sure you do that to be in with a chance to win this system. It won't be a difficult competition to enter. It'll be a simple question, or maybe even just sending you us a photo of your current system, and we will pick a winner at random. So make sure you enter the competition and have a chance of winning this system and be able to do exactly what you want with it. So thank you for watching the Kit Guru AMD Frame custom build. If you like how this system looks and you've enjoyed watching the series, let me know what you think in the comment section. Also, if you enjoy the content from Kit Guru, make sure you hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. If you want to help support us, you can head over to our store and pick up some merch, or subscribe to our Patreon. And as always, if you want to catch up on the in-depth technical reviews, head over to the website.